I think our beginner tips were a nice way of like thinking about things like just sleeping, eating.
Basic human functions.
Basic human functions. Yes. Picking a deck.
As a beginner.
Care of yourself.
Not switching your deck list at the last minute. Being familiar with your deck. And then just some general things about how regionals go. The flow of regionals. So I think when we're thinking now intermediate tips, I think we're thinking like we've gotten that all the way out of the way. These tips might be good for your first regional, but it's also like if you're somebody who's now trying to move towards topping. So you're trying to get like top 64, you're trying to get top 32. And I think once you, like I think there's almost like two brackets. There's kind of like the top 32-ish bracket, and then there's kind of like the top 64-ish. I like kind of see things that way. So once you're kind of consistently falling into one of those places, you can kind of like aim to move up. So for example, if you're consistently falling in the top 64 range, your goal is to get into that top 32 range. That means on a good day, you could top 8. On a good day, you could do really, really well. But you're going to typically be in that range, where you're consistently getting top 32s, and then maybe your goal is to actually like win one, or go to Worlds or something like that, right? So you kind of, I feel like you kind of move up in sequence, just because like, there's a lot of variance in card games whenever you're playing. And so I think if you're trying to really get into that top 64, you're starting to maybe bridge that top 32 range, where you're consistently now topping, you're getting those prize cards, but you're not quite somebody who's like, okay, I'm going to like win Bandai Card Fest or something like that, or you're not somebody who's like, I need to consistently top 8 because I'm flying to every event, and I need the serial card to help cover my hotel and stay and to make profit. So I think that's kind of where we are. That makes sense?
Yeah. That's at the stone.
Okay. So yeah, our first tip was going to locals.
Okay, so we just
More
go to
than that.
locals.
Yeah.
Sign up. Let's enter. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So we see a lot of beginners at locals, and you just have a good time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If you want to step that up next, I think the biggest factor is intention.
Yeah.
Being intentional with what you're playing, with how you're playing it.
Yeah.
And trying to top at locals.
Yes.
Keeping that as a goal in mind, right?
Yeah. I think like taking your locals matches a little bit more seriously. And this is something that I think is good to do, especially when you're in that preparation phase. Now, you can always take your locals matches seriously if you want. I know some people do that. But I think it's like, especially when you've got a big event coming up, typically the vibes already are changing because people are taking it seriously because they want to get good practice. But you can also tell your opponent, like, hey, are you playing regionals? Oh, yeah, me too. So I really want to like play seriously. If you have any feedback at the end of the game, can you let me know? Like, just kind of starting to up the stakes a little bit, and then thinking about in those latter rounds, instead of splitting, maybe just playing it out and telling your opponent why is a good thing to do. So you can say, like, normally I would split, but I want to play for something. I want to just like, I want to have some nerves. I want to play for the $20, or I want to play for the winner card, just so that there's the added pressure because I'm preparing for regionals. So I think that's another option. I would always kind of let people know why. I don't know about everyone's locals, but our locals, everyone splits, especially with their friends. So it's good to say, like, I'm preparing for regionals. I want to take it a little bit more seriously. So I think both letting your opponents know that you're prepping and asking for feedback is good, and then trying to create the scenario where you're playing for some pressure. And I think you can also attend the style of tournaments as well, where there's some pressure. So attending like a box tournament or a case tournament, really actively seeking out online tournaments that have really good prizing, because you just want to put yourself in that environment where it's a little bit scary. Where if you get to the latter round, now you're starting to sweat. Your hands are shaking, and you're like, oh man, like I'm actually playing for something.
Okay, so trying to recreate the regional environment as much as you can.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I agree with that. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah,
because I want to be an intermediate player.
You are an intermediate player.
Cool. Okay, what's next? You want to talk about mulligans?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So mulligans is I think it straddles the middle to advanced line. Okay. And the idea here is, I think a lot of people don't really mulligan with enough intention. Pro players do this, and they're really, really good at this. And they think about this a lot. And a lot of them even do it intuitively. So if you ask them, they might not even tell you. But they've played like a trillion games, so they really, really know what they need. And so I think mulliganing with intention is starting to think about a couple things. It's starting to think about the mulligan in the context of the matchup that you're in and the round that you're in as well. And so as the tournament progresses, you're going to have to lower the threshold of what hands you keep, because of the fact that if you mulligan, you could just get a worse hand. Right, and so you, rather than kind of looking for like an optimal curve, you might have to say, I've got like 2 pieces. Statistically, I should draw maybe one more of my pieces by the time I need it. So I'm going to keep this hand, even though like normally I probably wouldn't, because if I just draw all 2Ks, I just lose. And so I think it's important to like adjust your mulligan based on not only that, but also the matchup that you're in. So, for example, if it's a matchup that you are not favored in, right? So, for example, if you're a Teach, I think we might have talked about this before, but if you're a Teach and you're facing like a GP Luffy player, for example, this is not a good matchup for you. If you see a hand that's like, that you might consider keeping, you should probably mulligan. And you should probably try and high roll it, because that's going to be your only chance of winning the matchup against a really, really good player. Like in the latter rounds, you're facing someone who knows, like they know exactly what they need to do against Teach. And even if they have a suboptimal hand, they can probably still beat you with it. So like there's a few considerations, there's a few adjustments I think you want to make when you're mulliganing in these tournaments. And then finally, I think my last point on this is just the difference between being like XO and X1. So I think if you're XO and you're getting into the latter rounds, especially if there's a top cut, you can stretch the mulligan a lot more, because you know you've got the leeway of going like X1, you're probably still going to make top cut. X2, you're probably still going to make top cut. Right. And so then you can really you have that flexibility. Now when you're X1 and maybe you lost early, right? And so if you go X2, you might not make it. Now you really have to think. Like now you're really on a knife's edge.
Right. So sorry, just to clarify, if you're XO, for example, you have more flexibility because your goal is simply to get like top 32 or whatever.
Yeah, and especially if there's 2 days. Yeah, there's 2 days especially. Or if you're like just trying to get top 8 as well. Like if it's a 1-day tournament, but it's like whatever, there's going to be 9 rounds and you're going into like round 7 and you're XO, like you've got a little bit more flexibility certainly than someone who's X1 with what you keep and what you take.
Gotcha.
And so I think there's probably ways of even like quantifying this further, but you'd have to think about like what deck you're playing and what matchup specifically. But I think at the high level, that's one way of thinking about it. And then I think if you're thinking about now mulliganing for top cut, that's advanced.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll have to subscribe to learn more about that.
No, I think we should bring on someone who's done like a lot of top cuts, because they would probably have good insight.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let's bring in chat.
Yeah.
Chad is a top 8. Chad is a champion. But yeah, the mulligan one's like really interesting, because like I'm thinking about like an exercise I used to do, which is like I always try to score my hand on the mulligan, which is like I think about like all the hands that my deck can give me. There's like these 5 cards, and I scored on a 10 scale, right? 10 being like this is the best hand my deck can possibly give me ever, and then like basically anything that's like 50% or higher, I usually keep in a competitive environment, depending on the matchup, because I'm just like, okay, if I have a greater likelihood of mulling into a worse hand than this, I should probably hedge my bets. But like you said, some bad matchups you have to high roll. Some matchups you're like, actually, even those matchups at like the 50% line, I actually just think that there are like some like many hands that will just win the game if you just see this. Like if it's your favorite one too, right?
Yeah.
There's like so many games I've lost in like because of the mulligan, or looking back realizing the mulligan was actually what I did wrong, not the gameplay.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, scoring your hand when you first see it and being able to have that kind of like instinct on like, is this like a 5 out of 10? Is this a 6 out of 10? If it's a 7 out of 10, like, should I really even be thinking about mulliganing? Because like, how much more am I really getting out of this? That kind of stuff.
I like the idea of scoring it. That's really good. I think that would be a fun thing to come up with a system for.
Does the sim not someone to do that? Is it ranked maybe?
Does it? Like, it shows like mulligan like percentages. Yeah, you could
review
that.
Really explored it, but
I think you could. That would be a good thing to review. I think. Yeah, like because you can subscribe to sim stats and you can see like the win percentages of different starting hand compositions. So knowing that is good. I think also this is something that you will intuit just by playing enough as well. But I also like your idea of like starting to think about every hand that you draw while you're playing One Piece and like putting that on a scale. And like why. Why? I think just doing that on your own would be a really good exercise. And
every time I'm like helping someone like if they're like asking for feedback or coaching, I'm like or they're asking like, oh, what could I have done better that game? It's like, oh, tell me what was in your opening hand? Like, did you mulligan or not? He's like, oh, I mulligan. And it's like, what hand did you mulligan away? Like, cause like more importantly, I want to know like, you chose to get rid of the first hand. Why did you get rid of that first hand? Because that first hand could have actually been better for this matchup. Where like I always try to like go back from that as a 0.0, because that mulligan, the whole game starts from like that first decision. That is like the first point of skill expression.
Yeah.
When you start a game, is the mulligan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I think also like keeping track of whether your opponent mulligans as well. I mean, that's also straddling the line between intermediate and advanced. I don't think we follow the order here well enough in the West. Like we don't, like the turn player doesn't declare like, oh, I'm mulliganing, and like we don't really do that. But it's actually kind of important. You should know whether your opponent mulligans, because if your opponent does mulligan, that now you have a hand that you were on the fence about, that opens up, the opportunity for you to now mulligan. But if they snap keep, you really have to think about it. Like you really have to think now.
Legreezy, like Kevin, like Legrand, who played so much Blackbeard, so good at it, he said that when he played against like what's it called, against Doflamingos, a lot of his mulligan decisions were like based on the Dofi mulligan. Like if they just hard keep snap right away, they're like, oh, 100% they have Perona. Without their leader ability is going to be like all sorts of things they understand just based off like how they kept their hand, how quickly they decided to.
Yeah. It's the same thing whenever you're playing like against GP Luffy as well. Like if they're keeping a hand, there's probably Sanji Pudding, or there's like a Zoro if they're going second. Like they found one piece that they need. They found the one piece.
Yeah.
Title drop. Right. Yeah. So you should always have that in mind, and then you can kind of start to map out their hand as well, and kind of know what they have, which is really, really important, especially when you're implementing starving strategies, which a lot of decks do nowadays. So it's like, did they like GP Luffy? Oh, they mulliganed. Oh, they didn't see any searchers. I can starve. Versus they kept, and then they played double Nami. I cannot starve. Right. So I think this is really important information to start thinking about both your own mulligan and your opponent's mulligan, because they do interact.
Yeah. Is it the player that goes first has to choose their mulligan?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. But like nobody does that.
Keep that in mind, because that is a conditional probability, right? That knowledge completely changes the probability of whether you should keep or not. As well.
Exactly.
That's true.
Cool. I think a good segue, going back into the sim stuff, solo versus self is a huge way to practice at an intermediate level. Don't play with don't make friends, just play with yourself. That's it.
Flip that.
And there's so many reasons to that, right? Like one is the sim now has the option to rewind,
which is crazy,
which is incredible. Because we always talk about, okay, wait, hold up. I think maybe if I did this, that would have been the better move. But you never know that. You're only guessing. You don't get to test that hypothesis. Now you can. The other factor to this is learning other decks, which is another aspect as well, right? Where it's like you need to know your opponent at least as well as you know your deck. Because if you don't, then you can't. You're only playing half the game.
Exactly. At that point. I agree. 100%. I think playing versus like solo versus self is like, it's something that I think you can do it. It's almost like at the beginning of your practicing, like when you're starting out to prepare, and at the end, if that makes sense. It's really helpful in the beginning because it just gives you a sense as to what other decks run and the kind of cards they see in their hand and what they want to do, and you can start to like map it out and map out your own play. And then if you mess up something, you can just go back and be like, oh wait, I wasn't supposed to do that. Right, or I clicked the wrong thing. Like, so you can just kind of play at your own pace and figure out what you should do. And I think it's really good as an advanced tip at the end of your practice, when you really know the meta really, really well, and you can kind of like optimally try and pilot both sides of the matchup. So I think it's a good tool. I don't think people use it enough, and I think it's what's crazy about it for me, at least for my own practice, is like when you have the ability to rewind like 2 turns or 1 turn. I realized how many lines I was missing. Like I was actually shocked. I was like, oh man. And there was a couple times, there's a couple of games where it was like, I didn't see the line for a while. Like I really had to stare at it. I went back. I was like, okay. Because I was like, my gut's telling me there's a way out of this situation. But like, I'm not seeing it. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, okay, we're what? Like thinking. And then I'm like, oh wait, there actually is. It's like if I swing 6 here and then like and you can get lost in rabbit holes. You don't want to go too far because you have perfect knowledge of both sides. But there is definitely a way of kind of seeing lines that you missed and realizing like the space of what's kind of possible on a given turn. You can just explore that in a very different way by being able to go back and try that. Or what if I did this and then they do that? What if I do this and then they do that? And it's really helpful in like kind of like they're like call and response matchups where it's like you do something, your opponent has to answer it. You do something, and so you can say, okay, what happens if I do this? Okay, they do that. What if I do this? They do that. What if I do this and this? Oh, okay, that's awkward. Like you can kind of, map it out. So I think it's a really good tool. Right. I do think it straddles the line between being advanced. I think this is really like a level of optimization that you should be hitting if you're trying to get like top 8. Yeah. I think you can get top 64 without doing this. Like,
so these are spoilers.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think it's good. I think it'd go either way. They're like,
And it doesn't cost anything to just play solo.
No, it's so easy.
You literally just like load the 2 decks, like the deck that you don't like facing in your deck, and you just go and just like figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like, it can save you a lot of time to figure things out. Like, it's so fast. Like, you can just go back and forth. Whereas, like, to practice that matchup, you have to find someone, and then they have to be a good practice partner, and then they also have to know the matchup. So it's like a pressure-free way of practicing.
I'm just feeling out mechanics and how they trade. Like when I was practicing Gecko, I remember I was like trying against Shanks, and I knew the matchup really well when I was playing against Shanks, and then the more I learned Shanks, and then eventually I started playing solo versus self. And it was funny because at first I was like, oh, this is fine. This is a really good matchup. And then the more I learned the matchup, I was like, oh no, if the Shanks player was like really knowledgeable about this deck, Gecko should never win.
Mm-hmm.
But also I realized I was the only person that was going to like have that knowledge. But I was like, oh, it was really helpful because anytime when I was playing against Shanks and they didn't do the line that I actually didn't want them to do, I'm like, oh great, I'm in the blessed the blessed timeline. I'm in the good timeline. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's the other point that solo versus self kind of gets you is conditioning yourself to predict what the opponent is going to do and what their best move would be, because having that transparent knowledge of both sides helps build that cue.
Exactly.
For that response, right?
Yeah, and also too, what's interesting is like there's this thing that happens where, at least for me, when I'm playing, especially against certain decks, I feel like that deck always has so much counter, or I feel like they always have X thing or XY thing in their hand, and that's because when you have something bad that happens, the memory's more salient, and so it's like every time I've ever faced an Enel and it's been a 0 cost, I always remember that. So I think like it's always 0 cost. Really, that's happened like twice. It's just it happened one time at like a big thing, and now that's all I think of it, right? Like our memory is very biased towards things. I always have a bias of thinking like, oh yeah, they've got 5, they've got counter. Let me see if I can play another turn. But it's really good when you're playing both sides because then you actually see the hand and you're like most of the time I've got a 2K and a 1K, and of course you can run this through properly, like statistically you can try and figure out what they have and do the optimal play. But it's also just really nice to kind of play both sides of it and realize, oh, I can get away with a little bit more here most of the time, and that can help inform your decision making.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. So rewinding a bit, maybe you do want to make friends.
Yeah.
Always make friends. Like, clip that. Always make friends.
Maybe let me think on that a bit. I'm not entirely sure.
No, never mind. Your list is changing. Friends. We're not sure if friends is S tier or A tier.
That's pending. That's pending. So what you were saying before. Solo versus self, okay, that is a bit more advanced. Maybe taking a step back is getting like a practice partner.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's more fun. Like if there's someone you like playing the game with, and then you can dig into it together. That like playing solo versus self is not that fun. I that's like solo practicing. That's akin to like, yeah. So it's something that you're really doing if you're, and that's kind of why I think it's a little bit more advanced, because you really have to want to be super competitive.
You're exercising.
That you're willing to sit there by yourself for 2 hours and just run exercises with like none of that like feedback that makes the card games fun. So a nice alternative is to actually just play with somebody and to figure it out together, and then you get two minds solving the same kind of problems, which is always good because they'll always another person will always see things that you don't see.
That's true.
So I think finding a practice partner is really, really great, or a set of practice partners. There's like entire discords where people are willing to do this, so there's lots of opportunities to just play cam games with someone or find someone at your locals. But I think it's moving from just like, do you want to play some games, to do you want to practice for regionals, which is a different style, which can sometimes be hard to bridge, and some people might not even want to do that. So it's like you kind of want to find the right person where you feel comfortable kind of like doing weird things, going down weird lines, exploring things together, and that's okay, like because you've agreed to practice together.
Right. Yeah. I'm reminded of when I picked up Lucci and then I saw Black Yellow Luffy, and I was like, oh my gosh, this matchup is like so impossible. And then Jeremy and I played so much of that matchup.
Like,
and
so much.
Yeah, and there was so much insight behind that, because I'm now learning how BY plays, and Jeremy is telling me like, oh, I was so glad when you didn't do that thing, because that would have changed like the entire game. And like for me, it's like I thought I was gonna lose either way. Yeah. Right. So now knowing that and actually practicing over and over again, it's just like it's so useful to have that like outside knowledge. Yes. As like it's like when legal teams have outside counsel. So they're not like biased, right? Yeah. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. That's actually such a fun memory, because I always tell people like the reason why I thought that one tournament, I think you were playing Lucci and you're like, I'm not sure if I should play Lucci. I was like, you should play Lucci, because I think the advantage you have is that for whenever you played into BY, I never felt like you were playing Lucci unfavored. I felt like you were playing a 50-50 matchup, which is like as a BY player, like people were like, oh, maybe you don't know how to play Lucci. It's like, no, I know how to play against Lucci. Like this is different when like Kobe's playing it. It feels like a 50-50 matchup, because he's like, you practiced it, you learned it, you got to see it from both sides, and then those like it really showed that a favored matchup could just be that it hasn't been explored for far enough to see the thing that's actually you're not going to see unless you limit test it. Like something, like some moves you would never do when you're playing ranked sim because you're like, I don't want to lose rank. But if you're willing to take those wins, like, oh, that was the correct line because I was able to like have a practice partner that like goes back and forth on this because there's no stakes.
Yes.
Because you can just explore.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's like that. There's another like kind of point there, which is like you should always be practicing those bad matchups, like a lot, because you can figure things out. Because people don't practice their good matchups enough, so they don't actually know. They're just so used to winning, and the other person giving up that they don't know what it's like to play against someone who's like, I am gonna win, and I know how to win. I've figured out like a line. I figured out a way of winning. I'm gonna put the pressure back on you because I know it.
That is so facts. Yes.
Yeah.
Like on sim, when I'm practicing a bad matchup, I'm just like turbo queuing on sim. I'm just finding every person playing my worst matchup. I'm just like click, click, click until it stops feeling like a huge pain. I'm like, just gotta keep doing it. Just gotta keep going. Like the number of pluffies I played on BY where I was just like, the number of times I just lost to just like getting my blocks and just like getting swung at. I'm just like, okay, just keep bearing with it, and then it ended up being my top 8 like final round, and I was like, oh, and he was like, oh, I'm like, he wasn't overconfident, he was like appropriately confident, and then like, but I think when he started seeing like, oh wait, what's going on, he was like, oh wait, no, this isn't going the way I wanted to, and then it can really easily slip out of your hands if like you have that mentality of like, oh, this is like free matchup. So I've never treated Lucci as free anymore. I was like no, Lucci can win.
Yeah, I mean, you see that too. Like, I'll see often like pro players. They're practicing a really bad matchup. You'll see like one person's playing like a really favored matchup for one side, and the other person's playing the really bad matchup, and they're running it back 50 times. They're just going to play it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
I think the key there is also to just like never give up.
Yeah.
Like get to a point where you're like, okay, what else could I have tried?
Yeah.
Right. Because once you get to the point where it's like, oh, there's just literally nothing I could do.
Yeah.
Then either it is like an impossible matchup or you've just given up. And you'll never really know if it's an impossible matchup or not, because like sometimes people always manage to eke out a win, even with like that 2% chance, right? And you never know with card games.
Yeah, well, like going back to like the Enel discussion we were having in the last segment, we were talking about how like Enel into Rayleigh, it's like 20% win rate for Rayleigh. That's still 20%.
Yes.
And so I think as a Rayleigh player, it's on you to know where does that 20% come from? Is it just them bricking? Maybe, but usually you also have to do something to win. Like, so there's something,
That's
so there's
crazy.
some condition. Like, you can't just play nothing and swing all game, right? Like, you also need to know what hand to keep. You also need to know. So even if your win con is they just brick, and I play this, and this, it's better to know that than to not. And it's better to sit there going into the matchup confident. Like, I know what I need to do to win, rather than just being like, I don't actually know how to win this matchup.
Right.
It's unwinnable.
It's over.
Right. And you might say, well, it's only 20%. It's like, 20% is going to go in your favor 20% of the time. It happens a lot.
What?
And if you're playing for $8,000 or something on the line, that you just need that 20% to go into your favor. That's a lot better odds than a lot of things in life. So it's still on you to play it properly. So I think testing with a partner, your bad matchups.
Yeah, like sometimes you won't even know it's a bad matchup until you actually like. Sometimes you'll be like, oh no, this is not. Why do people call this a bad matchup? I have such an easy time on sim against this, and then you play against someone who knows, and then you're like, oh man, I'm so doomed. Like that's how I felt when I played Gecko into Blackbeard, and I was like, oh, everyone sim so, and I realized like once I played a few rounds with like Kevin Legrand, like I was like, damn, I'm mapped. This matchup is mapped. Yeah, this is so doomed, and like thank God I did because I faced 3 of them, but I was like, if I didn't do that, I might have just gone in like, oh no, Blackbeard is so free, I'm not gonna tech for it at all. But then literally because of like those games with Kevin, like the day before Montreal, I literally swapped so much tech for Blackbeard, and ended up facing 3 of them. But like, if I didn't do that, like, oh, would have been completely different. So that's important. It's key.
There's always a small chance you can win, and maybe that 20% is just DDoSing the opponent on sim.
On sim,
You'll never know until you try it. Yeah.
A peanut allergy?
Yeah.
The peanut allergy tech we talk about?
Yeah.
Are you allergic to peanuts? Trail mix.
That's wild.
No, that's attempted murder, guys. You can't do that.
No, you have to throw their high rarity cards in the ocean. That one's a little bit, you can get it. That one's easier to pin on you.
Oh my gosh. What was I going to say? Yeah, so make friends. It's very important. If you have, and I think we also brought up how it is important to find the right person as well who's willing to train in the same way that you'd like to. If you don't have anyone like that, feel free to comment and reach out to us. we'll do our best to just like play sim games with you.
Yeah, we have the Discord. People are always playing and always down to play. So
yeah.
And there's lots out there. You can find someone for sure.
Yeah, throw it in your Hinge bio. What leader you play and
who
you're looking to practice against.
And then we'll swipe right on each other.
And then like, oh, this person's playing like Green Zoro and looking to practice against. And then it's like, oh, suddenly.
Yeah, that's a whole other ecosystem.
A whole other we got to get like other people like Carolyn and people like from Twitter who like to make the definitive like OPTCG dating based on leader tier list.
Yeah, that's a good tier list.
That is a good one.
I would.
Yeah, we'll get like the Cuties OPTCG to do it. Like Cuties OPTCG group.
You should join the video. Yeah.
We'll sponsor their podcast episode for the day. Be like, yeah, you guys do the Cuties episode.
That sounds epic.
Yeah.
So yeah, test with your partners. That goes much further than just following guides.
Yeah.
I'll just add that extra point there.
Yeah.
What's next?
Learning other decks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
huge.
There's an intermediate component to this and an advanced component.
Wait, you're telling me I have to learn more than one deck?
Yes. I think so. For the intermediate portion is to really have a sense as to what every deck is doing, and then there's certain decks that do their own thing, and you should probably just play a few games of those decks on Sim, or build it and go to locals for a couple weeks to know what the decks do. Because there's decks that just seem like an impossible mountain to climb when you haven't played the deck yourself and you don't know what their weak points are and you don't know what feels awkward. So Nami, Blackbeard, BY Luffy are like 3 decks that are completely like that. Where if you play as BY Luffy, all of a sudden you realize, wow, thank goodness they didn't swing there. They would have just won. And that happens like over and over and over and over and over again, right? And it's the same thing with Nami. You're like, oh, thank goodness they like didn't do the math properly, or they don't actually know what my cards do. They don't know how much I can counter for, so they swung like 8, and then I just went like love, thank you, right? Like, so things like that. So I think practicing specifically those really tricky like technical matchups, and then just having a good sense as to what the other decks do. And I realize this is hard because it's a time commitment to like learn all of these decks, and learning a deck takes time. Yeah. So I think it's you don't have to be masterful. I think that's getting more to the advanced tips. But I think as an intermediate player, you really just you owe it to yourself to just spend a little bit of time learning what every deck does and trying out some of the more tricky ones yourself, so you can start to just figure out like what hurts when I'm playing this deck.
It's so fair, because I was thinking like when you're trying to learn the deck, you're not learning the deck to win on that deck. You're actually trying to lose on that deck to see what are like. Wow, you can just lose on this deck this way. Like, so actually, like, almost like the worse you play the deck, you're like, oh, all these random things are so awkward, and you just, like, learn those awkwardnesses where, like, why does this happen sometimes? This seems like a horrible deck.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like, for, like, the BY example, because I played so much BY Luffy, I just loved facing BY Luffy.
Oh.
Because they were just never expected. I'm just swinging on random turns, and they're like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, you can give me 6 cards.
BY, like, a BY player facing someone who's on BY, like, on a different deck is just, like, so painful. Like, on Monday when I faced at Locals, I faced Jack on BY, and that was his final round. He was playing BY. He'd, like, gone XO into when I was playing Green Zoro, and just, like, many turns I was like, yeah, here I'm not going to swing because of this and this and this, and then he's just like, he was like, oh god, this is such a painful matchup, because, like, not even because I'm playing Green Zero, but, like, which is bad, but it's like, no, I just know when to swing and when not to, and then the final turn, like, I was like, if I do 12-12 with my leader here, you get out if you have 4 2Ks, and he had exactly 4 cards in hand, and I was like, so actually if I put all 10 Dawn onto Shigi and swing instead, it's better, because then it asks for more counter. Yeah, I'll do that, and I did that, and he's like, he showed me 4 2Ks in hand, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Where he was like, I was really hoping you'd do 12-12, and I was like, no, I play BY.
Yeah, no, I think especially for decks like BY, like, it's just so important. And right now, I think so. If you're preparing for the upcoming regionals, I think Blackbeard is one of those decks. I think Sanji is another one of those decks. Now Sanji could probably get away with maybe not preparing for, but you owe it to yourself to maybe play 1 or 2. But you should certainly pick up a Blackbeard and just play a little bit of Teach to realize, because like when you play against Teach and you don't know, they really do feel like it feels like everything you play either gets removed, or they pressure you so hard with Burgesses, and then they drop a 10-drop and you lose. And you don't realize that the Teach player is like sweating. They're like, I'm missing this. Like, I'm so dead if this happens. Like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, right? You don't realize, like, from the Teach side, it's very stressful. There's always a lot of thinking and a lot going on. And so you have to really find the moments where you can poke them that hurt the most. And often it's going to be really subtle. It's going to be things they pitch off stage. It's going to be like they play a searcher on a certain turn when they shouldn't. Like there's these just really small tells that they're missing a piece, and you have to be able to get that read and be like, okay, this is what you're missing. I'm going to pressure you in X way, which sounds really, really hard until you play the deck and you realize that that's just a component of how the deck works.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, a lot of these matchups sometimes they just feel so impossible until you find that weakness.
Yeah.
Right, but like you said, it's on you to find it. So, or you can just go around being like, "I lost because I just faced this."
Yeah,
this
that also works.
That's the reason.
That's the easy route.
What was that for when you were playing a lot of Lucci? What was the other matchup other than BY that you were like, "Oh no, this sucks"? Was there many? I guess like Blackbeard.
Well, like back in the day.
Yeah.
I think I played during up to 09. Did I play in 010? I forgot. 09, I felt like Blackbeard was okay because I played so much Blackbeard initially, and I was like, it's missing a few pieces.
Yeah.
And then going into that, I was like, oh, you're gonna run out of hand.
Yeah.
And once you do, I can do everything I want.
Yeah.
Right. All I need is to force you not to use leader ability once.
Yeah.
And then I play Moria. It's over.
Oh yeah,
right?
that was the era.
Yeah.
That's that's the biggest weakness. And then after Moria got banned, it's like, oh. Teach it feels impossible now.
Yeah.
because Kuzan just gets you that card draw. I will never get you down.
Yeah.
Right.
They can now go forever basically.
Yeah. But then it still comes down to wait, hold on. You don't actually have efficient removal.
Yeah.
You need to bring out like augurs, and if you do that, you don't play Burgess, which is what I'm really scared of.
Yeah.
And if you really want to remove with Burgess, you need to spend 4 Dawn to remove like a 4 cost or maybe cost reduced before that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can play like 2 Brooks. You deal with one of them by spending more Dawn than I did playing out the Brook.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, every deck does have a weakness.
Yeah.
Nothing really feels impossible.
Yeah.
I played against an NL the other day with Lucci recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard because they're just going to starve me and they just put all my Brooks. I'm going to lose everything. And I was like, oh wait, you know what? Maybe I just don't play anything for a while, and whenever I do, it's a card that replaces itself.
Yeah.
So I play Kuzan and replace itself. Nothing has changed for me. Now my opponent has to deal with my board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you take the initiative to put it on them, right?
Yeah.
Kuzan, goated
So,
card.
Yeah.
Goated card.
Yeah.
Goated.
Yes.
Yes. There is always a path forward.
There is.
It is up to you to find it.
And it's usually Kuzan.
If you're playing a black deck,
It's Kuzan.
If you're playing like Kuzan, let them deal with it.
Kuzan. It's like a 90% chance that's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, learning other decks. Yeah, that's that. So check.
I feel like all of these things have led to building muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. So building muscle memory, it's not actually muscle memory, but I like the term muscle memory because I'm a pianist, and when you play the piano, you have 2 hands, and believe it or not, you actually can't really think about 2 hands at the same time. So one, it's all muscle memory, and it kind of goes on autopilot, and you kind of think about the other one, or you move back and forth. But it's really hard to think about 2 things at once. So one of the things you do on the piano and on many instruments or many things in life is you build up muscle memory, so that it's like, we call it muscle memory. The memory's not in your muscle, it's in your brain, but it doesn't matter. You build up muscle memory so that certain things can be autopilot. And I think in card games, what I think of as muscle memory, again, it's not muscle memory, it's like semantic, it's like knowledge of how the game works. But the idea is that you've played enough reps and certain matchups that you kind of don't have to think about it anymore. And there's certain turns where you know exactly what you're doing, what you want to do, and you just do the thing. And so I think that comes from playing games, a lot of games. And so one thing that you should always keep in your mind, or that's just a general principle, is the best players, not only are they just like smarter than you and better than you, they've also played the game more than you. And it's really, really hard to tease out how much smarter they are than you compared to how much more they've played than you. And you shouldn't even try until you've played as much as they have. And so it's something to really, really keep in mind. The best people at anything have always played a lot more. And when you think about pros in One Piece, there's a reason, like when you watch pros play, they can play with another like super like lightning speed, and they're like, okay, you got it. Like it's like turn 3, and they're like, yeah, you got it. Yeah. And you go again, right? Because everything's mapped out. They know what they're doing. It's like we were saying, play Kuzan. It's like you don't have to think about it. It's like on 4, I play Kuzan. Okay, on 6, I play like Rebecca. I bring back Brooke. I KO with Kuzan. Okay, and so like everything's really, really, really fast. Everything's really, really fluid. And so I think rather than thinking, don't take away from that to play fast. That's not the takeaway. The takeaway from that is that you just want to have this kind of reflexive thing where you know how the matchup is supposed to go because you've played it enough. And I think there's a couple ways of doing that. The best way is just to play the matchup a lot with somebody who is also pretty good at it. I think you can cheat. You can use guides. We talked about there's a lot of guides out there. You can cheat. You can use a guide, but you don't really get the muscle memory with the guide. Now you really have to memorize all of these things, which you're going to forget when you're playing, when you're really anxious on the big day anyway. And so the best way to get all this information is really to figure it out yourself, is to just play lots and lots and lots and lots of
So I have to do the work.
You have to do the work.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because it's like it's like that intuition building, right? Because like there's moments where like I think we play against each other where we're like there's almost this weird, we're like, oh, I feel like I shouldn't swing here, and the guy's not telling me to do that. It's like something about how I've played this match before tells me I actually shouldn't swing at life here. Why does that feel right? Okay, I'm gonna try that, and it's like, oh, that was right.
Yeah.
And like you won't know that unless like you just have enough practice. Because like the guy can tell you don't swing if like X, Y, Z and like Mercury's in retrograde and all this other stuff. But like you have to now remember every case for why you should make the decision this way, rather than like something's telling me I don't want to give them a card right now. Yeah. So whatever it takes to not give them the card, even if it means not swinging, I have to do.
Yeah. And like, the more things that you like, the more, let's say, plays that you've got kind of in muscle memory, the more brain power you can dedicate to the actual game itself and to some of the high level features of the game, which is really, really important. And it's why sometimes it's good to play like you have to kind of know what kind of player you are. And for some players, that's why it's really good to play something like Green Zoro or something like Shix, because you can really get to a level of muscle memory with those decks where now you can really focus like high level. You can focus on, let's say, like keeping track of what's in your opponent's hand or hand reads. You can spend time really thinking about that, maybe one or two pivotal turns where what you do is going to decide the course of the game. That might just be like, do I play the 5 cost or the 4 cost? But you can start thinking about that. You can start planning for that. You're not lost in the weeds. Whereas if you're playing something like Sakazuki, or you're like, okay, I need to like draw. I need like this for this turn. I need this for this turn. I need that for that turn. But regardless, the more you have in muscle memory, the less thinking you have to do on the day. The more you know, okay, I always counter this swing. I always do this here. I always play this here. I always do that. And now I can think about, okay, oh, my opponent didn't actually play the thing that I expected them to play. How do I push them harder? How do I do this now? Because I already know what I'm going to do next turn, but how about the turn after that? Yeah. And so it's just, the thing there is just reps. It's just playing a lot. The more you play, the better you get.
I want to do a joke video now where like we do like when people do the speed Rubik's Cube solving? Which Lucci player can resolve 8 cost Moria into bringing back Rebecca into Spandine into Lucci and do all the bot and it's a standardized graveyard. Honestly, and who can resolve the cutscene the fastest possible, and we like time Lucci players against each other.
I didn't actively practice that. But I was like, I don't want people to wait a whole minute for me to do that. So I was like, oh, I see it's coming up, and then I get the 6 cards ready to go. Yeah. And I'm gonna put in the order, right? But it gets really hard because when we played the other day, it was like, okay, I need to handle 2 bodies. Like one of them is unremovable. I only have this much Dawn. I only have this much in my trash. I need to use the Tempest Kick to draw. What's the chances that this other card is like the one that I draw? And it's like, you don't have the luxury to do all this parallel processing. If you did just read a guide and you're like, oh, I need to clear 2 bodies. Yeah. And it's like, well, how do I do that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what do I have available to me, right? Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is, the more you do those reps, the more you'll be in that situation, right? Like, so that situation where you have to clear a 6 cost and something unremovable. The first time you do it, you have to really think about it. The 7th time you do it, you know, like, okay, I need this. I can't actually deal with that. This is how I do it. Yeah. Right. This is how I did it the past couple times. But I'm missing one piece, so like, okay, I have to play 2 Surus this time. But like I know what I need to hit, right? And so you can speed that up, and you don't have to sit there for 2 minutes while you're like exploring the multiverse.
Yeah, exploring.
I'm gonna point out like that is a great example where you realize, oh wait, I don't have enough to actually remove this other one, and you stop there and you move on to the next thing instead of worrying the whole game about how you could have removed the other one. Yeah, and that like completely changes the direction that the rest of your tournament goes in. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, because you don't have the experience. That's it.
Okay. Put in reps.
Put in the reps.
And this ties into that, this next point, which is just, so it's funny, like, so you build muscle memory, and then we have the next point, which completely contradicts that, which is play slower to avoid autopilot.
Nice. Yes. Nice.
Okay. Isn't that a great contradiction?
Yeah, that's the nature of humans, just living in paradoxes.
Right. So, okay, so this play slower, when we talk about autopiloting. Yeah. Okay, what we mean now is where you do the thing automatically from muscle memory in a situation when you shouldn't. Okay, so there's 2 different things. So there's building up your muscle memory to know what to do, right? and then there's avoiding doing said thing when you shouldn't.
Hold on. Okay, so to be an intermediate player, I need to understand nuance in the game. Okay,
yes, you do. You do.
Let me write that down
and
too.
Subtext.
Yes. But it's true because there's another type of player who they've played so many games and they think they know 100% how to play the matchup and they go really, really fast and it's all muscle memory. And then every single time I beat them because every single time they miss the thing because they're just autopiloting. Right? And so there's also playing with intention that ties into that. Okay, and I think what determines what the differentiator here is it's kind of understanding holistically the state of the game. Okay, so understanding actually I'm missing this piece for later, or I'm understanding like I've already lost my win con. So if I just keep doing the thing that I normally do, I'm going to lose. Right. So for example, you autopilot. Let's say on 4 I play. I know that I always play Kuzan. On 6 I bring back I pop the thing. On 8 I play Gecko Mori. I bring back 2 things. Blah, blah, blah. You go. Oh, but I missed the Kuzan. And then you keep just going like, oh well, on 6 I'm going to do the thing. Right. It's not going to work so well for you.
Like, right? Wait, I can't clear it
because there's no this.
Okay,
right?
Okay.
But I see people literally do that all the time. Not as blatant. That's a really blatant example. Sure. But you see people do that all the time, where something is fundamentally changed in the game. But they keep going down the same direction that they've always gone down. But it's like you no longer have a win con, and you see this all the time. And I think it's almost like it's a different point, which is like reminding yourself of what the win con is. But the idea here is, like you're saying, it's getting out of knowing when you can't autopilot anymore, knowing when you have to kind of switch out of that mode. And so why I think these two build on each other is because you actually have to know first. You have to be able to autopilot. To turn it off.
Right, you gotta learn the rules to break it.
Exactly. So it's like you learn the rules, you practice, you know what should happen when, and then you realize, okay, now I gotta turn it off. The situation's changed. I don't have the cards I need in my hand. I'm missing my 8 cost Gecko Moria. Right? And I only have 1 chance to find it next turn. I'm gonna draw 1, let's say. Right? Do I still do the exact same thing? Right? People do that. Or do I say, okay, now my win con is like I'm gonna have to like get it in with Suru in like next turn with 7 and hope they don't have a 2-1. Right? How do I set that up?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This game is so complicated.
Yeah. Like it's also like a very like I think at regional, as you kind of get to this point where you slow down, because I think once the intuition, once the muscle memory is there and you're playing well, now it's like, are you able to be like calm enough to slow down? Because like the motion of the day, everything that's happening, the intensity of the games, how fun and exciting it is playing one piece card game, it's hard to slow down because like you almost like, I'm just in such like groove right now that you want something to be like, oh wait, stop and enjoy this moment for a second, and then maybe you'll see a play you didn't see before because you're like, oh wait, now that I'm starting to appreciate this thing that I'm doing that I like, I'm like, oh, there's a play. Like there are so many times when that happens and I'm like, I feel like I just drastically improve as a player after that moment where I'm like, oh wait, this line I had never taken before is actually right there, and I've never noticed it, and it's actually really good right now. Let's try it. And then people are like, yeah, when you did that, they were like, I would love when people would give me the feedback back after the game. It's like, when you did that really messed me up. I was like, really? I'm like, great, this is so cool. Like, I learned something new about this game today. That slowing down is like also a form of appreciation too. But it's hard to do that because you have to first be good enough and then not be like so excited on the day that like you lose the like. I think the slowing down is an aspect of like appreciation more than it is like just like don't slow down just to say like, oh, don't like Borsellino it like,
well, yeah.
Oh, and then something I'm better now because like no, it's like it's almost like the thoughtfulness and appreciation help you kind of like grow. If you're able to see those other lines. So, like I remember I told you like my favorite play from like Montreal was like when I played Ryuma and I swung with it, and then I didn't have a second Ryuma to play. When my best follow-up play is usually a second Ryuma, and when I swing into Shanks when they have a Lucky Roo in play, I actually swing at a number that they don't block with the Lucky Roo because I want to keep the Ryuma and play a second one. But because I didn't have a second Ryuma to play, I needed him to block with Lucky Roo to KO the Ryuma. So normally I wouldn't put any Dawn on the Ryuma, and then I did because I actually needed him to snap take the block and let me play another one. I was like, so when I did that, I was like, oh my god, he just took it. He took the bait. I was like, oh, I like this play I never did in practice at all because it was wrong in almost everywhere. I was like, wait, but this is like the one time I actually need him to do this. Or even like learning like how to play around Red Rock. Like not bringing back blockers on attack because he'll just Red Rock it immediately. And I was like, oh, I didn't quite notice it until like after, but like until like I was playing and like slowed down.
Red Hawk.
Red Hawk. Yeah, playing around Red Hawk is like you don't want your Cerberus to get KO'd as soon as you attack and summon it. Instead, you bring back Hog back to bring Cerberus to hand. Then you hard cast it, so then you can skip the. They waste the Red Hawk on something else. But I was like, that day I was like, oh wow, like slowing down helped me just like notice these like. Where if I was like, oh, this is the play I always do, I would have lost that game easily.
Yeah, because obviously that's the play you do.
Yeah, it was like this is. I always did it in practice. It worked every time. This situation's different. No, I'll do the same thing anyway.
It's like your brain is like going down like, oh, you just swing and bring out the blocker, and then like suddenly there's like, Red Hawk.
I literally lost.
Red Hawk, right? And
Okay.
There's another tip: meditate.
Yeah, there you go.
Or whatever your equivalent.
Is that like a new Metafy like platform? Meditate? Is that like a meditate?
Meta.tate.
Meta.tate.
That's wild. Okay.
Yeah, you can catch our guide on meta.tate.
They're gonna go there and get a virus. Like,
oh no!
Don't go to Meta.tate.
It's like we have to now like it's like on
No,
TV
no,
when you
no,
mention
no.
a URL, you have to buy like like the broadcast station has to legally buy that URL.
Oh my gosh!
So anytime like a live show host accidentally brought up a URL, they were forced to buy it, like on the spot.
It's gonna be expensive. Just
Yeah.
like talking every single domain just out of my mouth.
Yeah, internet.com.
Yeah,
Is that taken?
Yeah.
Go to internet.com.
Nice. We're going through so many tips.
I know we have a lot for this.
This is
for the
awesome.
intermediate.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I think intermediate is really that's like the crux of it. Like there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Right before you get to the advanced, and I think like for the advanced, like it's really like all we have is like really really high level stuff.
Yeah.
And we probably need some more like high level players to even give us more because it's like
We need the goats.
I have like a couple. But we need Jonas to tell us. We need like Impact to tell us.
Tell
They're
us, like,
going to
the
have
top
the
eight
real,
seed,
the real like tip top stuff. I think it's really the intermediate where a lot of players are at, and that's why there's so much here.
Yeah.
And there's enough here to work on forever, right? And there's things here that everyone's working on at all times. And this is another one of them, which is thinking a turn ahead. Yeah. So I think intermediate is thinking a turn ahead. Advanced is seeing the whole future, knowing everything. Possible futures, but I think everyone should be thinking a turn ahead. It's hard to do.
Well,
I can't even think the turn now.
Yeah, it's really really hard to do. It takes practice. You have to kind of like, you have to have the muscle memory on all of that mapped out to know what you're going to do on your turn or to have some sense, and then you have to think about the consequences of what you do and how that's going to impact the game state. The easiest way to do this is to just know your opponent's curve, so you can know what they're going to play in response to what you play.
That's why you got to know the tags. Okay.
Yeah. So if you know what they're going to play, then that makes it really easy to say, okay, well they're going to play this. So if I swing this, and then they play that, then they can't clear this because they don't have the dawn, right? Things like that can help you really like figure out when you should give a resource or when you shouldn't, right? I think too, it's also just like there's so much to it. Like there's so much to like thinking a turn ahead. I don't even know where to start. But beyond knowing what they're gonna play, it's also like knowing what they could do with their dawn. It's actually probably a better way of thinking about it. Like as opposed to like knowing, like saying like they're on 7 dawn, Shanks plays Ben Beckman. It's like knowing on 7 dawn he could swing 8 and he could play Lucky Brew, right? He could play Yasop, and so kind of like what happens in each of these scenarios.
Yeah. And that can catch a lot of people off guard.
Yeah.
Especially when they don't realize like Shanks on 7, maybe they swing 5 with the Rue and then swing like again with their Uta Searcher and then play out another Lucky Rue, and it's like, oh my gosh, now I can't play any 4-drops.
Yeah.
And I didn't consider that.
Yeah.
And so because of that, you might lose a game as a result.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really thinking about, and then I think this is really important when you're going for game or you're thinking about win cons or lethal lines. Like when you're getting to those final turns. Like if I do this, they do this, I do this, do I win? If I do this, they do this, I do this, do I lose? Right? And kind of like, I see a lot of people, they just think about, like they're just playing for their next turn, but they're not really thinking about like anything beyond that.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like, okay, if I play this blocker now, I survive this turn.
Yeah.
The big one that people always do is like, oh, I really, really need this body. I'm gonna give 3 cards. So then they give 3 cards for that body. Okay, and then next turn I just swing at it again, and it dies.
Right.
And now you lose because you gave 3 cards, and I have perfect lethal math, and I know exactly what, and I can map out the rest of the game. Right. So it's really thinking about, and that's really huge when you're doing any type of dawn math, any type of deciding when to counter. Right. Like people just always drop their hand, and then I clear the same thing the next turn.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I drop my hand, if you're dropping your hand, that card better win you the game.
Yeah.
Now. Like right now. Yeah.
I know sometimes like sequencing plays, like they're like people don't always think about how like they try to plan for like they play for the turn in front of them, but they don't sometimes realize that doing this play, and I think this is actually easier to illustrate or maybe like visualize in black decks where like you can, because you have so many combo cards, not using certain like using too many of your cards and resources right now means your next turn is very bad. But it actually applies to all colors regardless. It's just more noticeable when you're playing a black deck. But people will like make a really impactful turn this turn and then just like fizzle out the next turn and just not really have that impactful play, and like they don't know how to kind of almost space out their plays to know those, like, you know, because a part of it's playing a turn ahead because you want to know what your opponent's doing. Some people aren't even at the point of like where they're playing their own deck a turn ahead. We're like, great, you did this, and you're so tunnel vision on it. It's like, oh, but what's your play after? Like next turn, do you have anything in your hand that like you really feel like playing? It's like, oh, no, I guess not. Maybe I should like weave in some of these weaker plays that I can't quite make impactful in the next turn. Like back then when Bonnie was brickier and Uta was brickier, I know like when I was watching people on Twitch and stuff, people would complain, my hands are always bricks, my hand's always doing this. And it's like, oh, there are certain turns where you play all the cards with counter from your hand on one turn, but you actually had a moment where you could have played like an 8-drop kit or one of the bigger units that are like really bricky, and then now it's down on the board, because later on in the game you won't have a chance to ever play this again because you're not gonna have that space. But all these other cards with counter in your hand, they're still counter and you can still play them later on. But like people end up missing like, oh, what's even my turn next turn, and if my next turn isn't that great, maybe I should weave in something right now that's like a grindier, higher value play to make my next turn better, because my next turn is not going to be that great.
Right.
So like that's like, I think like people should think turns ahead for themselves, like from their perspective and their opponent's perspective, because people are just like, if you only do one, you're neglecting like how powerful of a skill it is to have Shank's observation Haki.
Yeah. And this is something that you can get from just, I think, playing other decks. Like it's like you don't just have to like, because some of these skills can be really, really hard if you're like, I'm just going to start thinking a turn ahead right now. It's like you're probably not going to do it. But if you play like a black deck, or you start playing like Sokka's back, play some Sokka. For like to even just win on this deck, you have to start thinking a couple turns ahead. So the deck teaches you how to do that.
Yeah.
Playing Teach is a great example of that. If you play Teach, like if you want to win ever with Teach, you have to be simulating almost your whole curve essentially based on what you have, based on what you have and what you might see. And so I think you can learn this the fun way, which is just to play decks that do that. You don't have to just grind it, but it's also good to try and kind of grind it out on decks. I remember there was a classic one that I always liked, which was if you were playing Katakuri and you went first and you only had 1 7 mom, is it better to play it on 7 or is it better to play it on 9? Right? And like, and what else could you do with that 7 Dawn? And it was always a fun one where you, like, that's a really simple example. Yeah. But like, depending on where you play that, like whether you just like, all Dawn, clear a body now, or whether you say, I need this body because I need to be able to put pressure next turn. Having the pressure is more important. Having this 7 cost body is more important now, right? And like how you weigh that, or whether you weave in, like it's really interesting. There was so many different ways you could make that one binary choice. And it's based on what you expect might happen. What's your opponent's board? Like, what could you draw another?
Even I said I could already think of like, because like I remember I used to love playing like Monoliths, like the amount of counter in hand and how much they've countered throughout the game would have changed whether I want to drop a 7 and swing 5, or if I want to swing higher than that and do something else. Is like entirely based on like how have they been countering the whole game. That's so cool.
So that's like an example of thinking ahead on your own for yourself, right? Like, do I drop this now or do I drop this later? I think okay, so we've got a couple other ones. So one, this is just a quick one, which is how many 2Ks do they have in their deck. You should probably know that.
How would I know if I don't see their deck?
Well, most decks have like a set number of 2Ks. Now people will alternate, but there's some decks that run 8, like Sakazuki will typically run 8 2Ks, whereas there's other decks that run 12 2Ks. And so you're not going to be perfect on it, but it does help when you're going for lethal to know how many 2Ks they should basically like expect, how many 2Ks you would expect to see and how many 2Ks they run. I think that's a big topic that we can get into more fully, but I think it's just, you should just have some idea, whether it's an 8K deck, whether it's a 8 2K deck, 12 2K deck. Do they run, how many events do they run that can protect them? That just is like I would say that's like the first step for being able to really do lethal math correctly.
100%.
Makes sense.
And like, check that grave. I mean, like, I remember when I first told people, BY only has 10 2Ks in the deck? you can just count the grave and you'll know exactly how many 2Ks are in hand because they're all in hand or in crash. There's nowhere else basically. Mm-hmm. But it's just like it's like a map hack. It's just like free map hacks.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. I think blue purple Sanji is like the biggest one you can take advantage of right now. It feels like a lot of them play like a very few amount of 2Ks.
Yeah, they don't run many.
Still testing, right?
Yeah.
And like also very few 1Ks because most of them are events.
Yep.
So if they never leave Dawn up, then maybe it's just like, oh, now's my chance to just swing 5s as much as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
It's definitely a knowledge check there.
I think so, and I think like this will be an advanced tip, but you can track 2Ks, you can also track 1Ks, because as you start to get to know deck lists, and there's easier decks to do this with than others, but I would say like a good deck, like if you're facing, let's say, like a red Shanks, you can probably map out their 2Ks, you can map out their 1Ks, because their cards that have counter are very few, right? There's just not that many. They run a bunch of top end. They run 4 Rayleighs. They run like usually 4 copies of some 10 cost Shanks, right? So those cards don't have counter. And then they run a bunch of cards that have 1K. They run the Beckmans, they run the Yasops, they run the Lucky Roos, they run the Utas, right? So you can start to kind of figure out, okay, how many 1Ks do they have? How many 2Ks do they have? And then based on their trash, this is an early step of getting like really good at hand reads. Like what should they have in their hand at this time? And then I think that's a really advanced skill, but that's like the first step.
Right.
Is like, and it's something I've been working on more, especially is like thinking less about 2Ks, thinking more about like 1Ks. And then from that 1K mapping, you can start to think about like exactly what do they have. They probably have one 2K, they probably have one 1K, they probably have like one big body. And then based on how they play, you can start to like test that hypothesis every single turn until that final turn where you check them to see what they actually have and how right or wrong you were.
And then you ask them. Yeah. And they're like, go fish.
Yeah. And then their hand is all 2Ks.
Yeah.
I lost.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We'll have to figure out how to expand more on that for the next video, because that's a really interesting topic. Just being psychic.
Yeah, being psychic.
Yeah. It's just like hand mapping, right? It's just knowing how to read their hand based off just little actions. But that's when you get into the really complicated stuff, but also like the very fun stuff too, because it like One Piece has so many poker mechanics. Like there's like it feels like you're playing poker the whole time. Like you're just constantly like checking and bluffing and like guessing, just like
And I'm kind of happy to have some of these simpler decks if they do stick around, like Shanks back, because I think Shanks is such a great deck to have to learn these things, because Shanks is such a like telegraph deck. They do very like simple things, and so you can really like start to. It's a good deck to practice against to like start learning about these things. And I like playing against Shanks because that's one where for me, I find it really easy to try and like map what they have in hand, and to start like really having like a guess as to what's in hand. And there's like nice little things. It's like you're forward on turn, you swing 5. They give you a Beckman. Oh, you have 2 Beckmans. Great. I should play around Beckman. Like there's just like little like, and then so now I know one in hand is probably a Beckman, right? And then my next turn I swing again, and then they give me like a 2K. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you don't have a Lucky Roo. Okay, so you don't have a blocker, right? Like so you can start to kind of, or you want to keep it for later, but you probably don't. Right, so you can start to kind of like map certain things around that way, and I think Shanks is a good deck for that. So you can like kind of go in facing Shanks with that in mind. Like I want to start practicing these things.
Interesting.
No, that one's like a huge one. I feel like we could do a whole video just on like how to do soul reads. Yeah.
I think all of the next ones are all like, these are now like tourney, like regionally specific things. So I think we can do them all in sequence. So there's calling out effects in order to avoid rule sharking. So just starting to be very methodical about the way you do things. Really, really important. There's knowing
and
overtime.
There's actually a really easy way to do it. It's just like, when in doubt, you should just like ask people or ask judges like, oh, is there like a certain way I should be resolving this? Because all the judges know this stuff, like, and like likely like you don't have to learn it for every deck. You just need to know for your deck, are there like rule shark gotchas? Like if you're playing UP Luffy back like before, you should know that people will like you'll potentially get rule shark or DQ'd potentially or just reprimanded for just the ordering of how you do your untap and like your restands and like your top stacking, right? Like if your deck has a mechanic like that, just like look at that stuff up or ask the judge about it or ask someone about it. Like, well, whatever deck you're playing, like this sounds intimidating because you're like, I have to look up for every single thing people can rule shark me on. It's like, nope, your deck probably has like one or two conditions. Find out what they are, and you should be fine. We can even do a video on it eventually. It's like, if you're playing this, be careful of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's certain pitfalls. Like I think every deck has its pitfalls, and so you should be aware of that. If you're playing, Zoro and you want to restand, use the restand event. Make sure and you want to swing it forward. Make sure you do the sequencing right, so you don't make it so that you can't swing again. So there's like just little things with every deck that you will get checked on in regionals. Like locals, someone will be like, oh yeah, you can just do it the other way. Yeah. But at regionals,
Houndblaze.
Yes,
Houndblaze. Power first.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. People will rule shock you on that because they're just mad they're facing Saga.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we've got overtime rules. So brush up on the overtime rules. This is a good thing to practice at locals too. You'll hopefully eventually have a game that goes into overtime. So just make sure, like when that happens, you learn the rules, you reflect on them, you think about it a little bit. It's something you have to practice, and unfortunately, it can be hard if you're not playing a slow deck to practice these things. But you should know this, because even if you're playing a faster deck, you may have one game that's just like crazy, and you go into overtime, and you don't want to be now thinking about overtime rules and the game and all this stuff at the same time. And also, if you know the overtime rules, you can play for overtime rules, which is very, very important at a regional level. You have to know if the win con is now no longer I kill my opponent. The win con is I stay at 2 life. And if you don't know the overtime rules, you won't play for that, and you'll just lose to somebody who does.
Right.
So brush up on those, and then finally, just don't be afraid to call a judge for slow play, for anything.
Because we're not saying slow play by that previous thing we're saying. We're saying play properly still and know how overtime works.
Yeah.
But you do not slow play. We do not slow play in this house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so just don't be afraid to call a judge. I feel like this is something that a lot of like newer players are afraid of.
How would I call a judge?
You just shout judge as loud as you can.
Yeah, I don't want to do it because I'm shy, but like the volume, well, let's not illustrate the volume that you should yell judge at, but you should say it loudly because that's actually better for judges.
Yes, yeah. Put your hand up, shout judge.
Yeah.
I know it's embarrassing, but actually nobody cares because they're all focused on their game.
It's also just funny. When I hear someone yell judge like enthusiastically or loudly, I'm like, yeah, I'm at a TCG tournament. Yeah. It's like a very funny.
It's a very like
it's
card
like,
game.
There's the first one of the day.
Yeah. But yeah, don't be afraid. Like if you're, and especially if you're in a state in the game where you feel confused or you're not sure what's going on, always just call the judge. Let them come. They'll help you. They'll figure it out. And especially if your opponent is slow playing, which is if you feel like they're just taking too long, ask them to play faster. If they don't, call a judge. I know it's awkward. It feels bad. It's not a nice feeling, like because you are accusing somebody of someone just by doing it. But again, if you're trying to be an intermediate player, there's so many great players I know who are like, oh, I got slow played.
Yeah.
And it's like, did you call a judge? They're like, yeah, but it was too late by the time I called the judge.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's on your opponent because they suck, but it's also on you.
Yeah.
So
I have like words of wisdom from a judge who will not be named, who was like, because someone was saying, oh, I got slow played, and it's like, and then they'd ask like, did you call a judge? No, then you didn't get slow played. Right. Like, because a judge determines slow play.
Right.
You don't determine a slow play. The judge does. So, until you call a judge, nothing against the rules is happening. So, unless you call a judge, you didn't get slow played.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, like, if you are worried about being rude or anything, you can let your opponent know as well.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. I'd like you to take a game action, please.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we joke about that all the time. Oh, my God.
Just go up to a mirror, practice saying that.
Yeah.
Every morning you wake up and I'd like you to take a game action. Okay, I'm ready for my day.
Yeah. You're having so much trouble getting out of bed, you have to tell yourself.
Yeah. We have a separate judge who's not the judge who will not be named from before, but another judge who will also not be named for judge reasons, who, like, when I was getting slow played, helped out and said, like, oh, I need you to take a game action because they basically looked at both hands and was like, wait, this person doesn't really have plays. They're just searching into searching. And, like, I had obviously lethal on board. I just needed to have my turn for, like, 10 seconds. And then the judge was like, I need you to take a game action. And the person immediately conceded.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank judge. Thank judge. But now, as a joke, whenever we're just doing anything random, we joke each other, like, I need to take a game action. Like, if someone's, like, taking too long to, like, watch hands, I need you to take a game action. Or, like, someone's just, like, stalling, thinking about to order food. It's like, I need you to take a game action.
Game action, please.
Yeah. I can think of 2 or 3 times in like big tournaments where I call them out, and then they concede.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, that's like, it was then on me.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, like, it's not always malicious. Like, there's this thing that happens when you're, especially in a high pressure situation, where you're always looking for there must be an answer. There must be a way out of this, right? Mm-hmm. So you're trying to think, and you're like, okay, what if I do this? What if I do that? And you're just lost. Right, and when someone says, "Hey, can you do something?" and you're like, "Okay," that kind of shakes you back to reality. Like, wait, there's nothing I can do. What am I doing here? And so I think that's a good way of just kind of gently bringing your opponent back, because not everyone's like I think it's very rare that you have a malicious slow player, but people will just get lost in the sauce. And I think there's nothing wrong with reminding them very nicely. And I think that's the thing is like it can be awkward to do these things, but you can also just do them in a really, really nice way.
Yeah,
as well. And then you don't have to have that guilt.
And that's good for building character.
It is. Yes. It is good for, and it's just like again, like for me, that like I'm more concerned about like the other person. Like, I don't want them to feel bad. Like, or it's going to be awkward. So it's like I'm really sorry, but I need you to speed up because I really want to finish.
Yeah, like or just feeling like I just want to take my turn. Like just we're running out of time. I just want to take my turn. Like because when you put it that way, they're like. Yeah, like my opponent should get a chance to play a turn. Exactly. Like, it shouldn't just be me for the last 5 minutes thinking, because that doesn't give your opponent a chance to actually play the game either.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, it's the same thing if you're going to call a judge. You don't have to just like enter like in the middle of both players are focused and you're just like judge and like what? What happened? You can say like I'm going to have to call a judge here because I think we need to wrap this game up. So I'm going to call a judge, and then the judge will come.
You can say like I want to just make sure we both get adequate time to play out the rest of overtime, right?
Yeah. So there's ways of doing it that I think don't feel quite as bad. So don't be afraid.
Yeah. Cool.
Call a judge.
Yeah. We could talk about rules forever, but I think these are the main ones.
I think this is good for intermediate. There's a lot here. Like there's a lot of different topics. I feel like we just kind of really are touching the surface.
Yeah.
But I think what's nice is with each of these things, I think it's good to get into the mindset of just thinking about what you want to work on and realizing what you do well and what you don't do well. I think as TCGs move and get more and more competitive, we just saw like Pokemon Worlds looked amazing. It's becoming like a real esport.
Oh yeah.
And I think TCGs are moving in that direction. And so I think it's time to start thinking a little bit more like e-athletes or like sports athletes actually think about these things where you've got your skill set, right? It's like a video game. You're like an S tier in some things, you're like a D tier in other things. You can level them up. And so by just having these things on your radar, you can start to think, okay, I want to get better at 2K tracking. I want to get better at hand rates. I want to get better at calling judge. And just by having that intention, you will start to get better at it.
Just pick a thing. Just pick a thing from this. Like we'll make a list in our description later, but like pick a thing. Do that for like one local.
Yeah.
Pick a thing.
Great advice. Yeah.
Even if that means like. Oh, sorry, for the slow play, that's hard to practice.
Yeah,
so, like, do you gotta play slow so that way it forces it overtime? Now you're like, I need you to take game actions. Like, no, don't do that. That's
Yeah, but what is fun is it will come up from time to time. Like you'll have somebody who's just taking too long, even at your locals, and it's actually a good opportunity at your locals if you could do it nicely. Don't burn the relationship with the person you see every week, but there is a way of doing it where it's like I think I need to take my turn, or they're not going to feel bad, and so you can practice that. All of it, you can practice anything. Yep.
Nice.
But yeah, I guess that is, unless there's any other thoughts, guys? No, that's intermediate tips for regionals for now, and I always feel like intermediate has so much room that we could do intermediate part 2 and then advanced part 1 and advanced part 2. Even begin, but there's like so much more we also always want to offer you guys. So like obviously, if you have any questions about anything about regional that you feel weird about, feel free to tweet at me or at Patrick. At like you can check our socials there on the video. But yeah, if you have any questions, like we're more than happy to answer. But hope you guys liked the video, and if you liked it, then like it. If you subscribed it, you subscribe. If you super liked it, you can subscribe.
Sounds accurate.
And if you just want to hear more of us, feel free to tune into our next video, or just ask us on Twitter all sorts of your questions about anything.
Or if we missed anything too. Yeah, if we missed anything at any level, beginner, intermediate, or if you have any advanced tips that you can think of, we'd like your input too. As to what these tips are, because we just brainstorm them.
Yeah,
we could be missing things.
Oh yeah, we definitely are missing things.
No, I think how long was that?
This game is.
Wait, that was comprehensive,
I think
right?
Pretty comprehensive,
right, guys?
I don't think there's anything more you need to know about One Piece.
No, that's it.
Catch the rest on our meditate guide.
Yeah,
it's over. You are an
Meditate.
athlete. Get your training in.
Yeah.
Yes, training arc.
Bye guys. Catch you guys next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Boy.